All right. I hope everybody's here for Riku-Pekka's presentation. Riku-Pekka is a longtime Plone user, not just a user, but a team leader at University of Jyväskylä. Did I get it right? I pronounced it right. University of Jyväskylä in Finland. He likes open source, agile development, building usable solutions for real people, and solving... All right, sorry. Riku-Pekka is a longtime Plone user and team leader at University of Jyväskylä in Finland. He likes open source, agile development, building usable solutions for real people, and solving problems by changing the process or the way people work. And so I believe that what you're going to see here today will blow your socks off. I saw a little bit about it during the training class the other day. So please welcome Riku-Pekka.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for having this thing in Tokyo. Okay, so I'm Riku-Pekka, and my other colleague Asko Soukka, who's been working his bottom off with Plone for the last years, he's also provided lots of stuff for my presentation, but he's not in Tokyo. As Kim said, I've been using Plone since 2004, something like that. And as I say, I've been doing everything else but programming on Plone. I don't count putting some custom CSS as programming, but I can do all the other stuff. And I do love Plone, the software and this community. And this guy, he's a blast. Asko Soukka, part of my team, and been a long time Plone contributor also. And he's developed this collective flow add-on I will be presenting today, and also created lots of solutions for our university and the other team too. Our university comes from Finland. We do stuff from left to right. There are hard sciences, and there are psychology and IT sciences and sports sciences. So kind of diverse university, not focusing on one thing. 15,000 students, and that's where Finland is. Quite far from Tokyo, but it's nice to be here. And like me, Plone has been at our university since 2004 or something like that, and the Godzilla soap for even longer. We created some products with soap before Plone, before that. And we have built websites and intranets and learning management systems and customized web solutions and video publishing platforms, and lots of integrations between systems that we have there. And one of the most interesting or important things is that we use lots of forms built on Plone Form Gen. And this is our website, built on Plone 5, of course, 5.1 I think, and soon 5.2. And it uses Mosaic, and it's really nice to edit and to use. But today, in 2018, I'm going to talk about workflows. And some of you might wonder that this is like 2018, we should have flying cars and stuff like that, not just workflows. But they really are the thing even today, making processes more digital and more fluid. And these are part of Kim's training material. In their organization, they had these cases where we can really save money and save people from doing not that interesting stuff and repeatable tasks, and generally making people's and students and staff members work easier by doing stuff digitally. And this presentation, I'm going to talk about our digitalization needs in our university, the workflow requirements, what do we need when we talk about digital workflows and solutions for that. And I'm going to present the case we have and talk about the add-on that's going to blow socks off hopefully, and about Plone in the middle of all of it. Yeah, we have this buzzword called digital transformation. It's really hot in Finland right now. I mean the buzzword, not the weather. But there's been demand for us. We work at the digital services unit at our university, and there's been demand that we should provide even more solutions for this transformation. We do have, as I told you, that we have built things on Plone since 2004 and on other things too. We do have a lot of digital solutions there already, and lots of nice modern processes, but still, while we are a diverse organization, in some departments there are still lots of paperwork and lots of ineffective processes, and also maybe some digital solutions that are not that modern. So this year our team was given 2 tasks, well, more tasks, but at least these 2 I'm going to talk about today. Our managers wanted us to find a solution for creating digital services, hopefully a one-size-fits-all solutions for different kinds of workflow automation problems in our university. But at the same time, we already had identified and prioritized some problems or needs or cases from previous years that we already should solve during this year, not only to find the new solutions, but to actually solve some actual cases. So these 2 tasks. And yeah, a workflow, yeah, it's a process basically. It contains people and states, and here's an example. There are roles and states and transitions and maybe some notifications going around with email. And in the middle of the workflow process, there might be a document that is being processed through the workflow. And yeah, some processes can be simple, like this one, and some processes can be quite complex, and some processes can be even really complex. By the way, that process was actually solved using Plone as a platform, so it was really nice. That was years ago. But our management perspective was that we're going to need a workflow engine for our university, and other things also. So we needed a tool to model those workflows, to draw those fancy drawings with lines and boxes. And we do need a flexible form generator, because forms are the beginning point of almost every digital workflow solution. And of course the workflow engine for the actual process that we're going through. And then another buzzword is automation, robots, and stuff like that. Maybe some tool for that also. And then a way to electronically sign the documents that we are doing. And of course we need lots of integrations. And when I started Googling workflow engine requirements, there was lots of results, of course. But these are maybe the most critical features that this Googling gave out. So a graphical process modeling tool, flexible form generator, easy tools to build workflows, possibility to integrate, some notification features, and then reports. That kind of stuff. And additionally, the workflow engine should have these things, maybe monitoring, analytics tools, maybe a cloud-based service. That's not important for our university since we have our own servers. Mobile support, responsive design in these days is important. Possibility to pre-fill form fields. The software should be secure, the data and the software itself and the platform. And it would be nice to have low license cost when you buy the software and use the software. And then the maintainability. And for our needs, one important feature with all these solutions would be that we would have an ability to change and to maintain and develop these things further, since we have our own development department, our own developers, so we are trying to get benefits from that. And our university, we want to say that we are like unique, and that goes by the way that our departments are different and there are different needs and different ways of doing the same thing, and that's not always the good thing, but that's the reality that right now. Okay, if you continue Googling, you will find lots of workflow engines and service providers in this field. And we benchmarked some of those products, not all of them, but some. Form.io, some Microsoft tools, then some low-code platforms. We had Plone, and then Camunda. And next year we would have a new service desk system that would also have workflow capabilities. So that's coming anyway. This Form.io, it's a modern through-the-web form builder, and it has some reusable open source libraries and custom JSON schema for importing and exporting. But after our short research, there would be still much work to integrate that with other systems. It would do the forms, but not too much else. Then Microsoft Flow. It's part of our cheap Microsoft Office deal. It's an easy-to-use tool to create workflows. Visually, you can drag and drop boxes in places and make some transitions between those states. And there are lots of many ready-made components and easy form generator. But the form generator is quite limited. And one minus is that workflows are integrated into personal accounts, so that's kind of no thing for us. And we don't have much experience on building on that. Here's an example of Microsoft Flow tool. And then we also have Dynamics CRM system. It also has lots of ready-made components and lots of consultation available from Finland and from Jyväskylä, but it lacks a form generator. Maybe through other systems it might be done. And it needs licenses, and we don't have experiences, and there's also a screenshot from Microsoft Dynamics. And then Camunda, it's an open source workflow engine. I wonder if any one of you have heard about Camunda. All right, so many. It brings business users and software developers together, and we are using it right now. It's a quite powerful workflow engine, and especially the workflow modeler thing is good. But also it lacks the form generator to start the whole process. And as I said, we do use it for modeling. It's easy to draw some pretty graphics with it. And then the other thing are low-code platforms. It's another buzzword, I think. But these platforms are tools that help you build business software easily with lots of ready-made components. And one of the ideas is that using this kind of low-code platform is you don't need that many developers. You would need power users or like a normal people doing the development, so it would be faster and cheaper and easier. And they would have a lot of components available. But since it's low code, you could still extend the functionality through some method of programming. And when you put this to a CEO or manager, that you can build enterprise software 10 times faster or 20 times cheaper, they usually tend to like that idea. And we did benchmark a couple of these systems, OutSystems and Mendix, industry leaders based on some research. And we utilized consultants to do some proof of concepts for us. Basically, these two are kind of same. They have the desktop version of their software and then the web version of the same software that you can easily use. Mendix is another one, and there's this thing called visual programming. And the idea was that these consultants could create maybe some starting point for our software, and we could continue developing from that. But not everyone likes the idea of visual programming instead of like real programming. So even some people might like the idea that it's easier to just drag and drop elements, but others are not so into it. But anyway, we selected the Mendix, that we are continuing with that. And after having these two consultancy firms to create a proof of concept for us, we will continue on that. To find out that can we really develop using this kind of platform by ourselves. And to be honest, we are lacking capability to create actual mobile applications, and these low-code platforms provide that they can easily generate the mobile application. And that's nice. And this thing is going on. We are right now, part of my team is developing this mobile application on Mendix. And while these platforms do have the workflow capabilities, we didn't delve too much into those yet, but maybe later. Okay, the other task was that we already needed to build some actual solution during this year, not only to find a new solution for creating this software. And when we looked at the cases that we already prioritized, they usually are pretty simple. We might need a form which has a review process, and then some email happens or some automation, and we get profit out of that. And this is one of those cases. It's not the most simple one, but it's something that we have been discussing even earlier. And Supervision document is a service with which a postgraduate student and his supervisors could easily document and discuss the whole progress of the doctoral thesis. So that kind of stuff, and I'm going to show that soon. And when we discussed about this earlier, we thought that, well, we could do this with Plone. Since the requirements were like this, we needed to replace the quite working legacy system. We had a fixed deadline this August. We had a large and especially diverse user base with students and supervisors and faculty members. And then there would be a major process change. And of course the system should be bilingual, Finnish and English. More requirements, easy to use for every role, no need for training, maybe some short instructions if necessary. And then the notifications, and definitely many levels of permissions, so that in different departments, different people could see different submissions. And then workflow state should be shown clearly, and there would be need for many integrations in that sense. And when we went through the process, it wasn't ready in February when we started. We iterated on it a couple of times with the client, and finally came up with a process that has like 4 main roles and 4 main states. And the way we do it, we did it with Plone. We create a preview site and show that to the customers and in the early stages, so it's easier for them to like comment and to think the whole process through with that. So while we benchmark the other systems, the other workflow engines, we did kind of have one which is Plone. And as it says in Plone.com, it has enterprise level integration capabilities, flexible workflows, security, scalability, and extensibility. And we know that's true since we have been using it for so long. So all these things that Plone has had throughout the years, they are pretty good still in 2018 and probably in the future too. It has form frameworks, it has workflows, permission management, content rules, dexterity, and commenting, context portlets, versioning, collections, REST API, and of course the content management. So lots of stuff out of the box. When we discussed and studied the existing form generators in Plone, we found these. Plone Form Gen is really powerful tool for creating forms, but it doesn't create content out of the box. It has an add-on for that, but it's maybe time to go forward from archetypes. Easy Form is dexterity, but it seems to lack this content creation functionality. And then Plomino is a powerful tool also, but it's archetypes. And then we have dexterity content types. But when we calculated all the cases and all the forms and all the services we should have in the future, there were tens of those. So creating a new content type for each case would be maybe too much work. So something else was needed. And enter collective flow from the mind of Asko Soukka. It's a kind of tool to create business processes, tool to create forms, and but still it maintains the Plone functionalities around it. So, for example, when we have different faculties, different departments, they might need the same form, but have kind of little different needs for that department. So we wanted to have a tool that that could do that. And what does it have is that we will create forms using dexterity through the web editor. It's brought on the Plone content side. It's not in the control panel anymore, but it's basically when you create a new collective this flow, it's shown there. We can enable field level commenting and versioning if needed. In the Supervisiondoc it was needed. We can select different workflows for submissions and then for the attachments. There can be custom CSS, JavaScript, and custom validation for each of those forms. That's nice. And then we will have additional behaviors that can be easily selected for each form. And the multilingual thing is also in place. And of course, if you want to use the dexterity XML editor, that is also possible. About integrations, we wanted to have data in. We wanted to pre-fill some of the form fields, in this case, maybe staff or student names or something like that, organizations. We would have default values based on the folder structure in the hierarchy. And then when we take data out, we use Plone REST API, for example, to take the data to data warehouse or some robotic automation process. And here's the content type structure for collective flow. We have this main type called form flow. Then we have a flow folder and form submission. It might get your tongue a little mixed up, but here they are. And we start with the highest level, it's form flow. It has through the web multilingual schema, so you can do the dexterity stuff there. You can select submission settings and do the custom CSS and JavaScript thing. And it also has archival rule feature that when you create automatically content, you can, based on some vocabularies, create a certain folder structure to your site. So there can be flow folders in our case, for each of the departments. They could have some local vocabulary values, local defaults, like different lists for some selection fields or stuff like that, and of course local permissions. And then it gets more complicated. There's this form submission. That's the actual document that we are creating by this form flow, and it could have its own schemas and workflows and behaviors too. And let's see how this works out. Okay, a couple of screenshots. This is how we add this form flow. Basically, you give it a title and submit button label. But the interesting stuff happens in the advanced tab. You can use these variables in here to create a submission title somewhat automatically, to have it fill out the user's name or some other information. You can select behaviors. We have created some extra behaviors of our own, but they can be easily selected from this search box. We have a tool called Impersonator that you can log in as another user, and it might help you in some cases to solve stuff. And then the different workflows. And there is this custom CSS where we can place display none to some element to make it more usable, the form itself. And custom scripts and custom validation. And I like the idea that maybe some programmer can create one of those and two of those rules, and then a power user can just copy paste these elements through the web and then continue with that. Okay, and then there's this design view. This is basically Dexterity editor brought in the content. And there's all the Dexterity elements and tools in place. And if you want to do it by the XML way, in many cases you want to, it's there also. But this collective flow in itself wasn't enough for us. So there's another add-on called Collective Webhook. You can ask Asko more about it, but you can use something called webhooks to trigger some automatic effects from the API. Then we have vocabularies and extensions to create some of the special to cater to some of the special needs of our faculties and departments. And as a bonus, we should have another presentation about this whole robot process automation thing that's going on. But basically, we're using Robot REST API with the GitLab CI runner, and then the main thing is done with Robot Framework. We actually checked other automation frameworks also, but the Robot Framework works well, and we know it. Then there's Selenium browser automation tool, and then the collective webhook. And one actual case that we are doing with this robot stuff is that in the teacher invoice forms that we will soon release to pilot use, in the end of this Plone process, there will be generated a PDF form. The robot will read the PDF form and then automatically copy-paste the contents of that form to another system in a couple of seconds. And while right now, like people are doing that copy-pasting, and that's not that smart. But soon, robot will take over on that. If we think about the modern and old and complex and features graph, we think that collective flow is pretty modern. Maybe not as powerful as Plomino or Dexterity itself, but yeah, it stands somewhere there. And here's a nice picture of the whole process, but I won't go through that. If you are not yet your socks are still on your foot, you can ask for more and check the add-on yourselves from GitHub. And it's still technology preview, it's work in progress, and there's no bye-bye release yet. But we are really continuing to work on that. Okay, now we get to see the supervision document Plone site. A short demo based on a couple of images. So when a student or a supervisor goes to the site, he will see it in Finnish and English, and there are links that create your supervision document from here. And they log in. If I log in as an administrator, I will see the list of all the documents there, and that uses Plone collection to list the documents based on your permissions and what you can see. When you start creating the document, there will be some pre-filled data, your name, your email, your department, and if you have a study right for a certain subject, that will be shown there also. And in this case, as an admin, I could log in as another user to see how it works. Okay, this is the main view when you first create that document. There are some open-close JavaScript stuff there to make it simple. And then when you open one of those tabs, there are just dexterity fields, some text, and it's just filling a form. And the same thing in the dexterity editor looks like this. There are text fields, there are choice fields, there are those instruction boxes. And that's nothing too complicated, I hope. But if you want to make even more fancy, you can still use the XML view if you want to. And there are a couple of nice user interface features that Asko created there. We can easily search the user base from our university to find a supervisor there or other supervisors, and we will have their email addresses automatically. And then when the form is filled, it will send emails based on content rules to those people. And there are some comment fields and change logs for every field in this case, as you can see here. The supervisor might comment that this thing wasn't right, you should change it, then send the form back to the student, and he will change the field and acknowledge that the change has been made. That kind of little stuff. Other things we have in place, this is nice touch. In Plone we have a thing called portlets on the left or right corner, and they can be attached to a certain content type, certain state, certain language, certain role. And in this case, we have brought the editing of that thing in here. So when you create a new text portlet, you can select on which language it will show and for which roles and in which states. Okay, 5 minutes. All right, I'm doing great. Other things we show here is this. We show all states, highlight the current one. We can have nice buttons on top of bottom of the page, and maybe change them with the custom CSS easily. And then we won't forget the content rules. They rule, and that's just basic Plone functionality we can easily utilize. And in this case, the Plone default roles work really well. So we have the student there, he has the owner role, then the supervisor will be the reviewer, and the co-supervisor will be the viewer, and then the faculty members can have the editor role. And in addition to that, we will have a special role for the robot to work on. But that's all Plone functionality. And we are using another add-on called Workflow Manager. It draws a nice automatic picture of the actual workflow there. And this product was released in September or late August, I might say, and it was just fine. And there were maybe 600 documents after the first 2 weeks, and like only a couple of problems that came to us. And they weren't like Plone or technology related. People were lacking some of the permissions or their study rights in the beginning of September. And the customer was pretty happy, really happy, I must say. The happy CEO, Plone as a low-code platform. So Plone has all these features. It's robust, it's secure for creating responsive web applications. It has a flexible form generator in Dexterity. It has workflow engine, and especially the flexible permission management in our university is really important. And through the web editing stuff, and the possibility to extend with programming is there also. And this is where we are now. When we looked at the requirements that we have and then the reality, we are doing the workflow modeling with Camunda. We could visualize the processes in Camunda also, and we have had a couple of short sprints on that we might run the process in Plone and then show it on Camunda, but that's something to study on. Plone has the form generators, Plone has the workflow engines, maybe service desk in the future. We use robot framework for automation stuff, and for electronic signature, we found out that we won't need any external service for people to sign their documents. We changed the process and the system, and we asked the lawyers that if we just log in using university credentials, that is valid enough for most of the cases. So that's nice to find out. And then Plone REST API for reporting through other systems. And integrations, we can do it since we know how to develop stuff. And it's possible on Plone. Some lessons learned about this. When you have a process that you need to digitalize, don't automatically do the process the old way. First think that how you could improve the process. Could you change something, make it simpler, and after that create the digital solution for that. For us, the ability to customize, to change, to do stuff on our own is a must. We have to have that in our unique organization. And Plone works really well as a workflow engine, business process builder. It still does. So that's really nice. But our work is far from done yet. This month we will release the teachers' invoice forms built on Collective Flow and Plone. And there will be also release of this automation case. We will create soon different invoicing forms also, and continue developing this mobile application with Mendix. And there will be other workflow cases in the future also. Okay, that's about it. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
What sort of process do you have for importing and exporting the workflows which you've built? Is it easy to build on a staging server and then use a production or version?
Good point. We probably don't have much process on that. We iterate on the workflow, at least in these cases, and then do it on Plone. Yeah. But actually, well, you should ask about it. I think Camunda can export some format of the workflow that we could use in Plone. Yeah, that's why we use Camunda. Yeah. Okay? Yes? Excuse me?
Are you still going to evaluate external products, or is this going to be what you're going to use?
Oh yeah, yeah. These we are not going to evaluate anymore. We are using these in the future. Yeah. All right. Thank you.